Well, I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Diane, did you send the applicants the video link?
Ryan did.
I
Okay,
sent them links. So and I have a Dennis that's on as an attendee. Does he need to be promoted up to a panelist?
Yes.
Okay, that has been done. So he is on.
And did you
That's
say
the only,
Jay Davis, Ryan?
I don't see that one. Having logged on yet, I don't see it.
I got no picture of him.
You need permission to have video. So that very first swipe screen, so swipe all the way to the left.
This way?
Yes, you have to hold that button when you need to talk.
Where did it go?
Yeah,
He-
throws it.
Dennis, are you, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, are you okay if we start? Or do you want
Yes.
to wait? Okay, all right. I think we'll start and hopefully BJ will come on in time for us for the second thing. Welcome to the Providence City Administrative Land Use Authority meeting for June 24th. It's approximately 2:35. We're doing this meeting via Zoom, and it's also on our YouTube channel. People wishing to comment can comment on the chat. Ryan will be monitoring that. They can also comment by texting comments to 435-752-9441, or they can email comments to providencecityutah@gmail.com. We have two items. I'm Scarlett Bankhead. We also have Max Pierce, our city engineer, and Rob Stapley, our public works director. We make up the Administrative Land Use Authority. We also have April Fredrickson in attendance. She does building and zoning compliance for us and stormwater. We have Diane Campbell, who does zoning, and Ryan Snow is our city manager. We've got, oh, Dennis, I always massacre you. Is it Gerke?
Yes, that's perfect.
Okay. And is your wife there too? Is Catherine? It's just you, or?
It's just me. I'm at work, so it's just me.
Okay. So we have Dennis Gerke on with us. He's the applicant for our item number 1, which is a conditional use for an accessory building. Providence City Land Use Authority will consider for approval a request by Dennis and Catherine Gerke for an accessory building located at 198 East, 200 South in Providence. This is a follow-up to our previous meeting.
But she's like, this is just ridiculous. Why?
Dennis, do you want to tell us, what did you decide? Are we still moving forward, just looking at it as an accessory building? Or did you want to talk about it being an accessory dwelling unit?
Last meeting, we talked about me, and that's why we postponed this till now, is that it's going to be a conditional use. And so I resubmitted the paperwork for that. So it would be
Okay.
for conditional use.
For an accessory dwelling unit?
Yes.
Okay, one of the things that I needed to make, and I apologize that I misunderstood your application last time. The way the ordinance reads, the owner of the property has to reside in one of the units. So you would
Okay.
either have to reside in the existing home, or you would have to reside in the new accessory dwelling unit. Is that, do you reside on the property right now?
We rent that little house out to my daughter right now, so, but when this garage with the accessory dwelling inside of it is complete, we'll probably live in there while we build the house, and we're gonna plan on tearing that little house down.
Okay,
We
so
would reside there.
the way our ordinance is, it couldn't be a probably. You would, well, I'll have to look at our ordinance. I don't think,
That
Yeah,
is the plan.
having your-
Yeah, it's not a probably. That's the plan. We're gonna, as soon as it's done, we'll move into it, and the other house will be torn down. Then we'll proceed with the house on that property.
okay. Diane, did you check with Aaron? Does it make any changes to his fire approval if this is an accessory dwelling unit?
He has written on the letter, it says, this is reviewed as an accessory building. If or when the building is used for residential purposes, the following items will need to be addressed prior to approval. And then he's got 4 things on that letter, such as the driveway, a turnaround, a fire department turnaround will be required. Approved address identification and available water fire flow will need to be confirmed and meet the standard requirements. So that's all on the letter from just the shop.
Okay. Max, does it change anything that you, from our last discussion, does this change anything that you want to bring up?
No, I still didn't look to see though whether it interferes with that sewer easement, if there's a sewer easement for that sewer main. Did you by chance look at that, Rob, to see if there is?
No, I didn't go get the recorded plat, and I think Gerke was gonna actually do that homework, if I'm not mistaken.
Dennis, were you able to, did you talk with the recorder at all about the sewer easement that would be, Robert, is it on the south side of his property or the west side of his property?
So,
The south.
And is it in the south west corner? Is that what it is? Or is it run that whole length of the south?
well, that's why we wanted to see what was recorded, but the sewer main and manhole would only impact that corner.
Okay. No, I haven't gone down to the county yet.
And there's that off chance that it's an extra wide easement, but I wouldn't think it would be, but there is that chance that it could be. If your setback is 20 feet plus, you're likely okay. And that's what you've got put on here, is that you're gonna be 20 feet, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because I understood the original setback was 15 feet, so I just went an extra 5 just to be safe.
It would be good to do the homework just to make sure we don't encroach a building on top of a 25 or 30-foot easement that happens
Okay.
to be abnormal but still in place.
Okay, I'll do that.
Ryan, do you
That
have,
was my only concern, Scarlett.
okay. Ryan, do you have anything, any questions, any comments?
I don't at this point.
April, do you have any questions, comments, concerns?
No.
The one thing, and I apologize, Dennis, if you sent it and I just looked over the top of it and didn't see it. Because you are planning to access this. I know your main access is going to be from the south, or I mean from the north, off
Right.
of 200 South. But remind me from our last conversation, are you thinking of accessing from the private lane from Peacock Lane as well on the south side of your property?
Yes, and we talked about that, and so I can't remember who it was that told me just to go talk to people who maintain it and get some kind of permission from them. Because then that would take care of the turnaround for the fire truck too, if I could do that. So it would take care of both problems if I access from both places.
Did you get that letter? Did you get anything in writing from those people that say that they agree to that?
No, not yet.
Because I really do think that before we can approve it as presented with that other access, we need to have that permission so that we know where, or that would have to be a condition that we, before you could move forward with it, we would have to have written permission from the other owners. And I think it would, for your safety, not necessarily safety, but for your peace of mind, I think that's something that needs to be a semi-formal type document that they sign, so that once you get it up, if somebody gets mad at you, they can't pull the plug. And then we have problems that way. It's got to be something that you could rely on if you're going to rely on that as your fire turnaround. If you weren't going to rely on it as the fire turnaround, then I guess that would be something that you and your neighbors could deal with, because it wouldn't be something that would be a matter of public health and safety. But if we're relying on it as the turnaround for the emergency services, I think that's got to be something that we have a formal type agreement on. Max or Rob, do you want to speak to that at all? Do you agree, disagree?
I agree with that, yeah.
I agree, but just for my own clarification, so it wouldn't actually be necessarily a turnaround in that case if you get the second access. It would just be a way to go straight through.
Yes. Yes, that's what it would be.
So you'll have the driveway coming off Second South, and then you'll have that ability to drive straight through out of Peacock Lane
Mm-hmm.
if you're able to do that second access. So it all
Yeah,
comes down to whether or not you're going to have to make a bigger turnaround off of Second South for the fire truck to be able to turn around.
And that's what I would plan on doing if that doesn't go well with, trying to get that access off Peacock, because I would have to just plan for the driveway and the turnaround just on my lot there.
With that in mind, I wouldn't think that we can make that a condition and still potentially approve this tonight.
Dennis, when you said you talked to Aaron Walker with the fire marshal's office directly, correct?
Right.
And did Aaron see any problem if the Peacock Lane access fell through? Did Aaron see any problem with being able to create a second turnaround back there? That would take quite a bit of property, I would think.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of concerned about that too, because with a 20-foot wide driveway and then, obviously a circle out there somewhere, that's going to be bigger than the whole project probably. But I mean, if I have to do it, that's what I'll do. And he didn't say anything about that, but he's the one that pushed me forward to do this as the dwelling too at the same time. And he told me he was going to approve that at the same time, but in his wording on his letter to you, it doesn't say that, I know. But he was doing it for both, is what he told me, for the conditional use accessory dwelling and the shop.
So it is worth talking to him about. I don't think that we need to delay it for another meeting. I think we can probably act on this and just make sure we make mention of it in our motion. But excuse me, there are several options for turnarounds. You can do a T-type turnaround. It still takes up quite a bit of room, but it doesn't take as much room as if you were to go back there and build a 45-foot radius, Rob? I don't remember.
Yeah.
But you could do a T, would take a little bit less, I would think.
Okay.
Take a little less space, but it's a little less invasive as well when it comes to I think it's 120 feet hammerhead type style turnaround. He's got 3 or 4 options that you could talk to Aaron about as far as what you end up having to build if the access out to Peacock falls through.
Okay.
I guess my biggest concern is I don't know where to put the trigger on everything. I don't want to hold you up, but the access thing for Rob, can you see that? Dennis, those are You can see there's the cul-de-sac type thing, there's a Y, a couple of variations of a T that you can work with. So, so I do think the second access is obviously doable. It's just if you want, I mean, I do think the turnaround is obviously doable with the amount of property you have. It's just if you want to take up that much property with that turnaround. But
Right.
since it's a life safety issue, it's something that probably needs to be addressed before we issue, I don't know whether to say before we issue the building permit, or I just don't want you to get so far down the road and then have a whole bunch invested in this little accessory building or accessory home and not be able to move into it because you don't have proper access for emergency vehicles. So,
Right. I
Max,
think
Rob,
Scarlett, one thing that's gonna help me on this too is the way the property's set up is I'm gonna have to do something like that anyway because of the cement trucks coming in there. They're gonna have to get really close because it's so far deep on my property. So they're about, bigger than a fire truck probably, or have a harder time turning around. So I'm gonna create something for them to get in and turn around too. So, when I do the cement, the footings, the flat work, everything, I'm gonna have to have, some sort of a driveway for them already, like first thing.
Scarlett, along those lines, I mean, I'm looking at this and I was wondering about how this was going to come into play, but Aaron's letter is written for a shop/garage. And I'm assuming that, maybe I shouldn't assume, but I don't know that this will cover the dwelling unit. I mean, maybe he would have different requirements for dwelling unit. I don't know. But along the lines of the turnaround, it talks in Aaron's letter about the 200 foot, or excuse me, coming off from 200 south with a driveway and a 20-foot wide and everything. So my thought would be if we approve it, then that would have to be built unless there's some other, like we're saying, some other alternative that's provided later on. Am I right? In other words, he's got to do it the way we approve it unless he can get something else that's equally effective.
so my question, I guess, is, and you guys will kind of have to help me. I'm thinking that's a minimum improvement, even though he's not subdividing where it's a life safety issue.
It is.
I'm thinking that the hard surface, it may not have to have full-blown asphalt on it, but the base course would have to be put into place so that if there was an emergency during the construction, the emergency vehicles could utilize it. Does anybody disagree with that, or?
I agree with that. I think that's the case. And Dennis, just so you know, you're right. You've got to get access for your cement trucks and everything back in there. But generally, an access that's adequate for cement trucks is not necessarily adequate for fire and emergency vehicles. So you're probably going to need a more finished access than what you would need, for the fire than what you would need for your cement trucks.
Okay.
Is there any other point on this that anyone would like to bring up?
No, I think his fire flows are likely going to be okay. Aaron obviously didn't update it as an ADU, but he had really good water volume and pressures for the size of that structure. So I would assume you won't need to update the numbers as far as the requirements for it.
Okay. All right. So that being said, I'd entertain a motion to approve the conditional use we're going to change it. Instead of saying for an accessory building, we're going to call it an accessory dwelling unit. on the property at 198 East, 200 South in Providence, with the conditions that are called out in Aaron Walker's letter that is dated, I think is dated June 9th, 2020. Got that Diane read them earlier, but just so they're formal as part of the motion. If the building is used for residential, in parentheses, it has sleeping purposes, which if we're looking at this as an accessory dwelling unit, it certainly will fall into that category. So as an accessory dwelling unit, along with the conditions in the staff report, the driveway will need to be at least 20 feet in width and constructed to support the imposed load of fire apparatus weighing 75,000 pounds and compaction test results submitted. One thing I want to add to that, Dennis, is that needs to be accessible all the time. So because just a caution to you, don't park other vehicles in there that would block an emergency vehicle from getting back and doing a life safety issue on it. An approved fire department turnaround may be required. Approved address identification will need to be clearly posted on the street serving the structure. And then the available water for fire flow will need to be confirmed. And that's what Rob was talking about just a minute ago. And it needs to meet the standard requirements the fire flow does. So the other conditions that we had on our staff report, just to review quickly, is that the applicant will continue to meet all relevant federal, state, county, and Providence City rules, laws, codes, ordinances. The applicant will mitigate the wildfire area, which the conditions that we read just a minute ago are different than the wildfire. Those conditions were outlined in Aaron's letter as well. You're planning on a Class A roof covering. You're planning on closing all underfloor decks and eaves with soffits, and you're planning on installing a 1/8 inch mesh on all vents. The hydrants are in a good location, and then Rob will verify the fire flows. The next condition is that we'll change this to say the conditional use is for the accessory dwelling unit only as shown on the site plan, date stamped June 10th, 2020. That includes the installation of the appropriate driveways and things like that as well. The payment of the fees listed on Providence City zoning permit would need to happen. And then the final condition, approval by the city of any application submitted or paperwork does not alleviate the owners and or their agents from their responsibility to understand and conform to local, state, and federal laws. Providence City's approval is not intended to and cannot be construed to allow any laws to be violated. Do you have any questions on those conditions, Dennis?
No. None.
Okay. All right.
Did you want to add the
Yes.
condition of the permission from the neighbors to use that other access?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Diane. So if, I don't know how to, so if we could put it as a condition that if the applicant finds an alternative coming off of the south side of Peacock Lane, then the applicant may not have to put in the turnaround, but that's something that would have to be approved by the fire authority. Max, you okay with that wording?
Yep.
Okay. If that being said, if I didn't forget anything, I would entertain somebody making that motion.
I will make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, so the motion was by Max Pierce, second by Rob Stapley. Are there any other comments from anyone or questions or concerns before we take our vote? And just for the record, looking really quick, I've not received a text. Nor have I received any emails regarding this. Ryan, have you received anything in the chats?
Not received anything in the chats or on YouTube, so I'm free of no comments here.
Okay, having no other comments, all those in favor of approval of the motion, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Voting was unanimous. Thank you so much, Dennis. And we'll look forward to you getting that information or getting that signed thing from your neighbors, and then that can kind of make our discussion on the turnaround a moot point.
Okay. And then, so where do I go from here? Do you guys issue me some kind of a thing that I can take to the county so I can get a building permit, or how does that work?
We do issue a zoning clearance and then you can take it to the county. My concern is the way our ordinance reads, we're not supposed to issue a building permit until minimum improvements are installed. So I think we really do need to know which direction you're going to be able to go on that turnaround before we can issue the zoning clearance. We won't
Okay.
hold it completely up, but we will have to, before we issue the zoning clearance, we will have to know which direction you think you're going to be able to go on the turnaround so we can plan appropriately.
Okay.
The other thing, and if I said this last time and I'm reiterating, I apologize, but you will need to make sure that you've got your survey pins in place so that the building department, when they come out to inspect, they have those pins to go on so that they can make sure you get your footings in the correct location. And let me make sure I'm clear. Dennis, you're the one that's going to follow up and then get with Rob and Matt on the actual sewer easement. Is that how
Yes.
that's going to work?
Yes, I'll contact the county on that.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
Not from me, nope.
Okay. Then we will move on to our next agenda item. Thanks so much, Dennis. Have a good
Thank you,
afternoon.
guys. Thank all you guys.
Have we heard from BJ Davis? Or Kelly Davis?
We haven't, and Limitless, Andrew from Limitless can't find his email, so I sent him the link, another link, but he hasn't gotten on yet.
EJ just came on, so I just promoted him to a panelist. Where'd he go? There he is. So BJ Davis just came on as a panelist, so he's just joined there.
Okay, can you hear me? I'm Andrew Davidson.
Welcome.
You are
We
who?
can hear you.
So I'm
Say
here
your-
I'm for Limitless. I'm his builder,
Can you say your name one more time, please?
Andrew Davidson.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Welcome. I'm Scarlett Bankhead, and we also have Rob Stapley and Max Pierce. Rob's our Public Works Director. Max is our City Engineer. We make up the Administrative Land Use Authority. Diane Campbell, April Fredrickson, and Ryan Snow are also joining us. Ryan's our City Manager. April is our Stormwater and Code Compliance, and Diane is our zoning and land use. So welcome. Our second agenda item is the Providence City Administrative Land Use Authority will consider for approval a request by BJ Davis for an addition to the primary residence located at 141 East, 300 South in Providence. This is the first time that we have considered this request. So I'll go through the findings of facts and the conclusions really briefly. Providence City uses Utah Code 109A507. We consider the Cache County GIS parcel summary. We look at Providence City Code 10.5 sensitive areas and Providence City Code 10.3.5 conditional use permits. We highlight those. We look at several other ordinances and codes as we approve placement of, to make sure that zoning compliance is met on additions and conditional uses. The conclusion is that Providence City has adopted land use ordinances that include conditional uses and provisions for conditional uses. The Cache County GIS parcel summary indicates this parcel is in a wildfire hazard area and has steep slopes. Providence City has the authority to impose reasonable conditions to mitigate the reasonably anticipated detrimental effects of the proposed use. Aaron Walker, Fire Inspector, Logan City Fire Department. And we actually need to change that title. Aaron is actually the Deputy Fire Marshal. So he has reviewed the parcel in the interest of the fire safety provisions and regulations as adopted by the state of Utah and in accordance with the International Fire Code. The request meets the requirements of our codes listed in the findings of fact with the following conditions. The first one is that the applicant will continue to meet all relevant federal, state, county, and Providence City rules, laws, codes, and ordinances. The next one is to mitigate the wildfire area. And Aaron gave us a letter dated June 15th. And have you had a chance to review the agenda packet and that letter from Aaron Walker?
Oh, was it just on the email that you sent to me, Diane?
Yes, it should have been included in that
It
email.
was. It's all in that pack.
So in this, have you talked, I know Aaron, I think he mentioned he talked to BJ, but has he actually talked to you as well? Aaron Walker, he talked with you?
Who, to me?
Yes.
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't talked with him.
Okay. So you'll need to pop in here and correct me if I see something that we need to change. On a site visit, it was discovered that the fire department access is pre-existing and non-conforming. The driveway appears to be existing from original construction and is not feasible to mitigate slope and turnaround issues due to topography. The use of the structure serviced by the access road is remaining an R3, and as such, the current codes are not applied. The International Fire Code, 2018 International Fire Code 503.1.1 exception 1.3 allows the distance to be lengthened if there are not more than 2 group R3 or U occupancies. So I think as long as
There's only one house up there.
right, and as long as BJ understands that if he wants to do something more, he may have to change his access, improve his access for fire services. So what we're
Yeah.
talking about
So
right
would that be
now,
like if you wanted to just add an accessory building type deal?
that yes,
Okay.
he'll have, since his lot, under current ordinances, since his lot is considered a in the wildland fire area and in a sensitive area, he'll have to come and seek a conditional use permit if he wants to do another building or another addition. We'll talk about it and it will be listed as one of the conditions, but this approval today only applies to the addition as shown on the site plan that we have. It doesn't apply to future buildings or additions. If you change the addition that's shown on here, you may need to come back and see us, depending on how significant the change is, because we want to make sure that everything stays well, particularly on the life safety side of things with the fire department. So try not to make any changes.
Yeah, I don't think it will. Like, I think it's pretty much what's showing. The size and everything is going to stay identical.
Okay. All right.
Not altering anything.
Okay. The fire hydrant number 428 is within 600 feet of the existing structure. He also considered fire flow or fire water flow. The building appears to be approximately 3,000 square feet in size, according to table B105.1 and B105.2. The fire flow for a combined fire area of 3,000 square feet is 1,750 gallons per minute at 20 PSI. He has that the fire hydrant 428 is within 600 feet of the existing home and has approximately 5,415 GPM at 20 PSI and is adequate for this size of construction. So that kind of takes care of the life safety issues on that side. Now we'll look at the 2006 Utah Wildland Urban Interface Code. It talks about roof coverings. Says the builder is planning on a Class A roof covering, which is approved. It also talks about unenclosed underfloor protection. The builder is planning on closing all underfloor decks and eaves with soffits, and that's approved. Talks about the vents. The home builder is planning on installing 1/8 inch mesh screen on all openings, and that's approved. Do you have any questions or comments on that so far, anyone?
No.
Okay, and then from our code, property owners are encouraged to implement the following, and this is from Providence City Code Title 10, Chapter 5 for hazard wildfire area. We've talked about the roof materials. It also encourages property owners to inspect property regularly, clearing dead wood and dense vegetation from at least 30 feet around your house. Rake piles of leaves and twigs if on a hill. More space will be needed to protect your home. A fuel break should be maintained around all structures. Move firewood away from the house or attachments like fences or decks. Cover vents with wire mesh no larger than, we've talked about that one. And then the driveway, we've also discussed that, and they're making an exception in this place. The address, now these are conditions that Aaron is imposing on this. The address shall be posted at the driveway entrance. Numbers shall be at least 4 inches in height with a 1/2 inch stroke on contrasting background. Maintain defensible space of at least 30 feet around the home. Trim tree growth from blocking yield sign at 300 South, 100 East. Diane, do the Davises have a copy of this letter?
BJ should have a copy. I sent him the packet.
Okay. All righty. So they'll be able to
So as long
refer
as we
back to
read through
this.
that, we can check all that off.
Okay. All right. Thank you. In addition to the conditions on the fire, oh, shoot, I buried my other. There we go. The slope mitigation. Do you want to talk about that just for a second? How you're going to mitigate the slope? So
on the front of his house, if you look at the plot map where his driveway comes in, he's got like a 7-foot tall retaining wall already in place that kind of retains the upper part of it, and then in the back he's got retaining walls that come across. In one of those pictures kind of showed the side. Yeah, so that's in the back. So it's really a pretty flat area. So where that addition's going, it probably only falls about 2 to 3 feet is all the slope is.
And so I know Diane held the illustration up so that it was available on camera for just a minute. But it also says on there, the slope is minimal where the addition will be. It has been mitigated previously by the retaining wall. The driveway on the east and south provide a fire break. On the west and north, there is 20 feet of defensible space with minimal growth on the ground. I think Aaron called out 30, so we got to make sure that we do what he says. Max, are you okay with that as far as slope goes with what they put in the packet?
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna try to get out there and take a look at it on the ground, but that.
Yeah, if you wanted
retaining
to
wall-
come do like a site visit to kind of confirm it all, but it's not, as far as sloping and backyards go, it's pretty minimal.
So, yeah, the retaining wall that's there, it looks like is that retaining wall that's shown in the fence and stuff that's shown, is the home gonna be on the high side of that or the low side of that? The addition?
The addition is above it and to the, I can't think what direction it is, to the south of it, I think.
So that picture is a view looking north, is it not?
I think it's looking east.
Oh, it's looking east? Okay, yeah,
If you've got your parcel viewer brought up, you can see where the trampoline is on the parcel viewer.
okay.
I'll help you get your orientation on that picture.
Well, that's why I thought it was looking north, because yeah, so I think it is looking north, if I'm not mistaken.
It might be looking north. Well,
Okay.
north,
Well, I guess the question
No.
would be, is the trampoline in the same place it was on the part when the Google mapped it?
It looks like it, Scarlett, because I can see some stairs going that you can see in the photo as well.
Okay,
And so it appears to me, that's why I thought that the home was being built, or the addition was being built on the high side of that retaining wall. And it also shows on the plot plan that it's not going to extend any further north than the existing home currently does.
What does it come out a little bit farther than the deck? But not by much.
is that a covered deck? That's just, it doesn't really matter one way or the other since it's already existing, but is that a covered deck?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I have a question on the deck and a couple of questions real quick. The addition, is it taking part of the garage?
It's already built into the garage, kind of in the back half of the garage. There's a bathroom and a laundry room.
Those things are
It's
already
already
there. in
there.
the
We're just
garage.
gonna be kind of updating those.
Okay,
So we're not putting new walls inside the garage. We're just coming off the back and making a doorway into the new addition.
so is the access into the addition from the garage?
There is an access from the garage into the house, but that is not because we're not adding another access.
You know, I realize, but the access into this addition, how do you access the addition? Through the garage or through the house?
It like you have an access into the hallway from the garage, but it's just a hallway that comes from the house.
The way the way
Missing
the
a
plot
door.
the way the plot plat looks, it looks like the addition. It looks like the door to the addition is only through the garage. Is that what you're seeing, Ryan?
That's what it kind of shows, but right there where you come in through that door in the garage, there's just a doorway on the left side to walk into the kitchen and everything. So it's not a wall that goes all the way across right now.
So you'd come from the kitchen into that hallway and then into the, where you're already going into your laundry room.
Yeah, so kind of right now, I can't remember if there's a door to go into the laundry room right now. There probably is. But then you just walk through that and it's kind of like a closet in the back of the garage right now, next to the toilet. That is the bathroom. So they're basically just eliminating that bathroom from the hallway and then accessing it from the addition part, and that will just probably be the master closet.
Okay, I was just trying to wrap my head around how you're gonna access it if you had to go through the garage. So that's why that's helpful. So.
You'll have access from both. Like you can come in the front door, you can come in the garage and access both.
Okay. And it doesn't have a door, the top door going out to the patio. Is that's just into a closet? It's not actually into the patio, right? It's a closet door on the top.
Okay, so that one, we're gonna extend the deck over and attach it because that line in between them is just kind of where the old deck ends. And we're gonna extend the deck into that so you can just walk all the way across it.
So you could have an exterior door from this room. It goes out onto the deck.
Yeah.
Max or Ryan, did you get all your questions answered?
I did. I thought that was okay.
Okay.
I was worried about a few other things, but that helped. Thank you.
Okay. April or Diane, do you have any comments or questions that you want to make?
No.
Okay. Rob, Max, any other comments you want to make?
Nothing.
No.
Okay. That being said, and one of the things that didn't come in on this, that generally when slopes are involved, we have topography. You'll have to work with the building official to make sure that setbacks from the slope where this new addition is going, to make sure that they're within the ordinance. Based on where it is within the confines of where the house already sits, it looks like everything's going to work, but when the building official gets out there and you call for your footings inspection and they start looking at that, it'll have to make sure that it meets the requirements for slope.
Okay.
So then the last couple of conditions, we need to change this one on number 4, Diane. It says the conditional use is for the deck only. It's actually for the addition. They are adding to the deck, but it's for the home and deck addition as shown on the site plan, which we talked about. If they wanted to do another outbuilding or something, they'd have to come in and go through the conditional use process again for that. Payment of fees listed before picking up the permit. You'd have to pay the fees listed on the Providence City zoning permit. And then the final condition, approval by the city of any application submitted or paperwork does not alleviate the owners and or their agents from their responsibility to understand and to conform to local, state, and federal laws. Providence City's approval is not intended to, and it cannot be construed to, allow any laws to be violated. That's why I said, if you get up there and you get your footings laid out and they're too close to where slope is, there will have to be some modification. This doesn't override any existing rules or laws. So just to recap, you need to meet all the current rules, federal, state, county. You need to mitigate the wildfire area the way we discussed in, and we viewed Aaron's letter. The slope mitigation needs to take place as discussed or as shown, that exists. The conditional uses for the home and deck addition only, as shown on the site plan, date stamp June 10th, 2020. You'd need to pay the fees, and then our approval does not override any other laws. You have to conform to the laws that are currently in place. Do you have any questions? Did I miss anything, anyone that I need to add to those? Okay, Robert Max, would one of you like to make a motion?
Sure. I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, the motion to approve the conditional use and zoning approval for the addition to the home of BJ and Kelly Davis at 141 East, 300 South, based on the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and conditions, as written on the staff report and discussed during this meeting, was made by Rob Stapley and seconded by Max Pierce. Anyone else have any comments before we take a final vote? Oh, let me look really quick, just for the record. I doubt I do not have any new emails, nor do I have any texts regarding this application. Ryan, do you have anything?
I did not have any chat or anything from YouTube, so I don't have anything on my end.
Okay, so receiving no additional comments, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the voting was unanimous. DJ can come in, or you, and pay the fees and get that zoning clearance as soon as Diane has the record of decision ready to go for you.
All right, perfect. Thank you, guys.
Andrew, I'll email you as soon as all that's ready for you.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us, Andrew. If there are I don't have anything else on our agenda. Is there anything that anyone wants to comment that they feel like we need to put on in a future agenda at this point in time? Having no comments, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second it.
Motion to adjourn by Max Pierce, second by Rob Stapley. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.